and welcome to episode 8, the last and final episode of this season of Spark After Hours, a podcast where we talk all things STEAM. My name is Komal.
And my name is Mehak, and we're going to be your hosts for today. So for those of you who haven't been a part of Spark or following us for a while, Spark is a youth-led nonprofit organization that was founded in 2018 to engage students in the world of science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. And normally we host an annual 24-hour hackathon, but because of the pandemic, we shifted all of our content in a virtual setting. So this past August, we hosted a virtual hackathon for middle school and high school students, and we have a lot more amazing stuff planned, so make sure you follow us on social media, and we'll link that at the end.
So today we have Stephanie Thompson here with us, one of the coolest women in STEM that I know. Today we'll be talking about her experience as an engineer at a company I'm sure everyone listening to this podcast knows about, General Motors, as well as everything else she's accomplished, because there's a lot. So welcome, Stephanie.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me here.
So I know I gave you like a little introduction there. Would you like to formally introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure. I'm Stephanie Thompson. I've been an engineer for over 20 years now. I work for General Motors in a company location that makes engines and transmissions primarily. So high-paced, really fast, fun manufacturing facility. About a few years ago, I started side branching some of my passions and love for STEM in the community and created workshop series for women under Women in STEM Experiences. And as well, I like to share what I can to help the next generation of STEM enthusiasts under an umbrella brand I call STEM by Steph. So my goal is always to break down barriers and make sure that STEM is accessible to anyone, making sure that they can take on new challenges and that they have the confidence and resiliency to do so.
That's amazing. I know we're definitely excited to have you on the show today, and we're definitely going to learn a lot more about STEM by Steph. And you've been an ally for all women in STEM, especially myself. So I'm really excited to have you on the show. But just as we get started, let's take a dive into like your career pathway. So you told us that you worked at General Motors. Do you want to quickly explain like what a typical day in your life looks like as an engineering team leader at General Motors?
Sure. I mean, I guess the easiest way is that there isn't a typical day. But for those of you who are kind of familiar with robotics, I'll use that to kind of give an analogy. But my work is about working with people and machines. And so, every day we look at how the manufacturing facility is running, what machines are working or not, and how the people are doing using those machines to build the products that we make. So as an engineer, you're always looking to make things better, faster, more efficient, making sure that people are safe in the work that they do, that they have no struggles, no ergonomic issues. And so my team and I really look at problems from, the immediacy, things that have broken down that perhaps we can design those problems out so it doesn't happen again. But we also look to the future. We look at how to continually make things better, faster, cheaper. Breakdowns are something that cost money, involves a lot of waste and time. So planning those out of the process, designing in better systems, and thinking about how to ensure that everybody is doing it in a safe way are kind of the primary tenets that we try to hold in engineering. So every day is different. It's really exciting. I realize I'm a little bit of an adrenaline junkie, because we work in 6-minute time frames. If something isn't fixed on a break, then it's costing and it's costing downtime. So we really want to be fast and quick and efficient in how we do stuff. All that takes planning and preparation, making sure spare parts are available, making sure the knowledgeable people have the right training so that in a moment's notice, we can jump in and solve problems as they come up. Sometimes they're problems we've seen before, which means you always have an opportunity to fix them again if it doesn't get fixed right the first time. And sometimes it's something that's brand new that you've never seen. And that's the exciting part, because it really starts into researching, figuring out what you know, contacting other experts in the areas that may or may not, remember. I've got equipment ranges between all the products that I own that, I've got machines that are from 1981 right up till today. So technology changes are a big challenge. Computer systems that are, before many of you guys were born, that we still are using. And so it really makes sure that we have a very large breadth of knowledge and truly you have a great team to work with, because we can't be experts at everything. So we create a team environment where we've got specialists, and I work to lead them into good problem solving paths that allow us to get to solutions really quickly.
That is so exciting.
Yeah.
I'm sure that keeps you on like the balls of your feet. So like clearly it sounds like you're super passionate and that you have a lot of experience. So more specifically for General Motors, how long have you been with them?
I got hired right out of university in 2001. So just this is my 20th year. Yeah. And I think what I really like about when I talk to co-op students or, students who are looking at career paths, I always advise, try a big company, try a small company. There's so many different pluses and minuses. And for me, the opportunities to move around, even though I've been in kind of one site for one, I haven't had just one job. Many different departments, many different focuses. When you have kind of a big structured team, I probably deal with 200-300 people a day on a daily basis that I interact with to resolve problems, because some of them are larger than just a small team can handle. So I like that sense that you're part of something big. Our site location was created in like the 1800s, so even our building feels kind of epic in that it used to make carriages back in the day, and now we're making and looking at the future of electric vehicles and where that's going, self-driving, all the rest of it. So to work for somebody like that, it's been pretty cool. There's a lot of history to it, and I love the team atmosphere that it creates. It's maybe not for everybody. Some people would love to work, in their own developing or doing something, on research side. So there's a lot of different ways of implementing an engineering degree. If you are somebody that you just get to know who you are, what your style is, and what you really want to get out of your career. There's probably a really great place for you, and I think that's the journey that most students are on, is trying to figure out what that will be for them.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, and I think like even just like how you said, there's so many ways to implement an engineering degree. I think that's so relevant, especially when we look at like whether it be like solving like global issues or even like for social impact. I think this engineering degree, or what we learn in like engineering principles, is very applicable everywhere. So it's really interesting to see how you're applying a lot of your knowledge into General Motors, which I think General Motors is not only a company that produces like or manufactures materials, but also they have like great social impact, whether it be like through sponsoring events like First Robotics Canada or other like organizations that promote STEM to students. So I think that's incredible. But just like moving on, so what has been your favorite project to work on over the course of your years at General Motors?
I would say it was the one I took about 5 years ago. I finished implementing it. I've had a really neat career. I got hired into a really big major project. It was like a $400 million brand new engine assembly line. And I got there day one, right from the beginning. So I really built it up. But what was really cool is about 10 years later, after I finished that project, I got to lead a very similar one. And it was like the same group of people that I worked with, like external vendors and that. So for me, it was kind of full circle. So kind of the junior engineers from my place and from all the people I worked with, we had all moved up in our careers. And so now I was leading with a same team from Japan, from the United States, from all over the world when we were putting the implementation. So it's kind of like a full circle event. You go from kind of coming in as a kid on a team, learning as you go, and then to lead the team 10 years later. It was kind of a great way to, kind of close that loop of knowledge that you had gained, building up that skills to be the lead. And so for me, that was a really powerful, kind of visual of being the person that could take your career to that place.
Yeah, we love seeing women in leadership positions. So that's super cool.
Yeah, me too. I love it.
So I guess so we can move on to our next question. But I guess, Stephanie, we just wanted to talk a bit more about being like a woman in STEM, especially Komal and I were both girls in STEM, not exactly in the workforce yet, but we've experienced like many things, whether it comes to like just small adversities, being a part of either a robotics team or going to hackathons and not seeing other women like yourselves and being the one girl in a team of like 4 other men, and often being overlooked. But how has your experience been as a woman in STEM, especially you've been in the STEM field for so long, and has it changed over the years?
For me, I don't think it's changed because I got into a company that had a good corporate culture that was supportive of women. And I think ideally that's always what I recommend, is to understand what the landscape is for women. Do they have support networks? Do they have programs? Do they have, the type, look at their leadership. I mean, we have currently our female CEO, right? And one of the first in automotive. So right from the top down, there was definitely that sense that women could have very powerful careers in the organization. I started in, as a junior person, but there was definitely no restrictions to grow and to learn materials. For me, I mean, I always, you get that question, what were your challenges? And in the end, I don't think there really was any, because people were very, like, it wasn't a big thing. There isn't a lot of women. I'm not going to say that there is, but the ones and the men that are there don't find it odd that there are women that they have to work with every day. And so I think it's about really your confidence and your skills development coming into a place. For me, I say lucky in a way, but you don't always know what you're going to get into when you start. But having the ability on a brand new project to take on and learn new information really gave me the skill set that I needed to feel confident that I was the expert in the area. I got taught by the experts on their machines, on the processes. And then when I took that information as the lead, as I went into things, I could disseminate that. I could teach other people for it. So then you got to get recognized as an expert. It's sometimes harder to do that if you're not in the middle, if you join something or that's already well underway. And so I think what was pivotal for me was kind of being on something at the launch perspective. There are lots of women that work in my organization. They're not necessarily in engineering, but we've got quality organizations and production people, hourly people that work on the floor. So there are, support networks and people who work in manufacturing. I run an organization called Women in Manufacturing because there are a unique set of challenges. There's a lot of shift work. There's a lot of weekends. A lot of hours when you're on a launch of a project. I can think back to weeks where we were spending, 40 or 50 hours of overtime because you've got really tight deadlines to implement. So no different than kind of university when you're kind of crunch timing towards, that final project, or on a robot team where you got your ship date you got to meet. And so some of those things, really create some cohesiveness. And I think the best advice is goes back to that culture. Look around, look at the men who are on your team, and if they're supportive or not. They all have wives, daughters, you kind of hear that line. But at the same time, are they your ally? Are they pulling you up? Are they helping create environments that you can be, one, inspired, but also allow you to grow and learn, that you're not getting kind of the jobs on the team that are, the clerical in nature, or, in the robotics team, making sure you're getting the coding and the programming and the mechanical experiences that you need to understand that. And if you choose not to follow that path, that's okay too, but you need to make sure that those barriers aren't there and that the opportunities to learn are for you. And no different when you get into the workforce. When they stop letting you learn or stop, preventing you, I guess, from moving forward, that's when you kind of know maybe it's time to go, and maybe it's time to find a culture or corporate. And basically, if you don't find that, that's the opportunity you guys have. Create your own. Entrepreneurship is so powerful nowadays that, the space is yours to take with it what you can do with it.
Yeah, I think asking those questions in a workplace is extremely important. So for our listeners that don't know, Stephanie was actually announced as Canada's 2020 Top 100 Most Powerful Women, which, congratulations, that's amazing.
Thank you.
That's crazy. So how's that experience for you? And what do you think was the most important step that you took that got you to that place?
I think, one of the reasons I got recognized was because of a lot of I call it extracurricular, but I'm really passionate about, and it came through First Robotics. So when I was about 4 or 5 years into my career, our plant started a new team. So again, being in a place where I'm starting a brand new team from nothing as the leader, right? I loved that I could put myself in that position to take on that challenge. And those types of programs, technical extracurricular programs, allow a young engineer to develop skills as well. So one of the things I've really noticed between my age and your age is the opportunity and access to programs in STEM. I went into university, I had 0 skills. I had, school, but there was nothing that I really understood about how to make, build, or create. It wasn't in my background. My parents didn't have that. I didn't have exposure to it. So I went into school as an education, but didn't have the fundamentals. And I didn't do as well at university as I think I could do now if I went back, right? If you guys are going in, your eyes wide open. You know exactly what you're getting yourselves into. You've seen and worked with professionals. You're interviewing me. I don't even know that I'd ever met an engineer before I went to the university. So it was a different space. And so when I graduated, I still didn't have that sense of what an engineer did in terms of fundamentals. So learning that at work is a lot harder, right? We talk about, professionalism and pride and bravery. You don't want to fail in front of your boss, your coworkers. And sometimes it's really hard to put your hand up and say, I don't know what I'm doing. This is new to me. You want to make sure that you seem like you're part of the team and that you're contributing, right? So what I found is that programs like robotics and any of the other great STEM programs that exist, I could develop skills along with the students. I'd never been in a machine shop. I didn't know how to code. I didn't know how, some of these things that you knew a little bit of, but I'd never wired something. So I could do that in a way that was, I'm putting myself out there because I'm telling you, I didn't know how to do that, and not through anybody's fault, but if you don't know how to do something, then it is just as simple as, let's try it. So some of those programs allow you to create and have that experience. So one of the reasons that I started getting more into the community is I thought I learned a lot from it. So, but what about somebody else who doesn't have that program at their school, that doesn't have access to that information? What about women who, like me, never had it in high school because it didn't exist, but now they're trying to be the teachers or the moms or the homework people? And I thought, well, what if they don't have confidence to teach their young girls how to get into STEM because they don't know how to do it either? So I started a series of workshops, and the workshops allow women of all ages and men and kids to come in and play with STEM. Really, it's supposed to be fun. It's kind of like camp, where you go to play around with science objects and stuff. But I wanted to break down the barrier of how to learn new things, because I think the older you get, the harder it is to think that you're going to have to try something new. At least it was for me. And so if I can take that, make it fun, spin it, introduce awesome STEM women who have careers in that love what they do, I hope it changes the landscape that we see women as STEM professionals who love to teach, and allow women of all ages to access the programs, break down the barriers, think about how to do experiments at home with their kids, perhaps be the ones that lead the math homework or the science homework, and change the conversation that we have around women connecting with their kids. I'm working on a new little tagline, and it's not quite baked, but the idea that we push women in society to become kind of shopaholics and spa days and all of that kind of focus on beauty and looks. It's how most of our women connect to each other. So if we, STEM, not spa, resistors, not retail therapy, something along those lines is where I want us to go. I want a mother and a daughter to, instead of going shopping for the day together, to pull out the electronics kit and do an electronic project. My daughter and I were playing with snap circuits. She's 4, so how easy is that? But we made a doorbell for her playhouse. So you can integrate lots of STEM things into everyday play, and it doesn't have to be serious or overbearing or powerful. It just has to be so natural to help you look at the world in a way that just says, let's question what we do and let's figure out how to see things a little bit differently, and maybe allow women to connect in a way that we haven't historically.
Yeah, I think I definitely relate with everything that you've said, especially for our viewers who don't know. We were talking to Stephanie's daughter just before we began the podcast, but even just I guess the opportunities that you provide to her, and not making sure that even her toys. I remember there's this company called Goldie Blocks that sells STEM-based toys for young girls. And I think if I had access to small toys like that, I would definitely be interested in STEM at a much younger age. But just the differences between what society provides young boys with versus young girls, it's extremely big. So maybe bridging some of that gap would definitely help, in my opinion, eliminate some of the STEM barriers that we have when it comes to even gender barriers. But maybe before we quickly move on, if you can give a 30-second rundown of what STEM by Steph is. If like there's anything that you want to plug at this moment. I know you talked about it briefly, but if you wanted to share that with our viewers.
Sure. So for the most part, I'm focused on creating hands-on workshops. So while in kind of COVID pause, we've kind of taken the hands-off approach and done virtual. But I've done a series on every topic from environmental science, space sciences, chemistry, robotics is a great example. And upcoming this year, I want to continue delving into more topics. So I've got biomechanics coming up in May, electronics, hopefully if we get back into some of the real life so we can do some soldering and make some electronic projects. And I've got some other, really cool ideas that are in the works. We did some video gaming and connecting women along science in a way that allows us to kind of have fun with it and make sure that we learn how to learn in maybe a way that isn't in your everyday life right now.
That's exciting.
Looking forward to that. So I know a lot of our viewers are probably listening and they heard video games and their eyes lit up. But moving on. So after a little bit of LinkedIn stalking, I will admit, we found out that you actually applied to be an astronaut at NASA back in 2016. So what inspired this? If you want to fill us in on a bit of the process, what you had to do.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, you always hear that you hear it with job interviews or applications that women hold themselves back from applying, right? So for me, I'm always coaching my co-op students like, no, apply. Like, even if you don't have all the things, you got to do it, right? This is the way we don't know what they're looking for. So when I was off on mat leave, actually, so I'm home with my daughter when she was first born. And, great opportunity for us in Canada, of course. I'll definitely say that that's very supportive of having a family in terms of being an engineer at the same time. But the application came up. So it's the first time that Canada had kind of posted a job for astronauts in, I don't know, I forget what it was, 20 years. And so I'd read Chris Hadfield's book. He's a big, STEM proponent. We've talked about Julie Payette and how, our new Governor General. So STEM hero to me is an astronaut. There's nothing more fantastic than the stuff that they are capable of doing. They go to space, they have to do dentistry, they have to fix the toilets, they have to, there's nothing that they are restricted from doing because they're so isolated up there. So they have to be great at everything. They have to be brilliant people. So I thought, I'm going to apply, right? Even though I'm like, I'm never going to get it, but it doesn't really matter. And I thought, isn't that what we always do? You say, I'm not going to apply because I'm not going to get it. But you don't ever know who your competition is. And these are the stats that I like. And they're not exact because I'll just top them off my head. But say there's 32 or 33 million people in Canada. So of that kind of general population, only 7,200 people open the application, right? They can track all this. And of those 7,200, only like 3,200 finished like filling out the page. And I thought, isn't that really neat that like out of 33 million people, I was one of like 3,200 that finished the page. And I thought like, that's just a fantastic example about how just putting yourself out there and starting something puts you in the running, whether or not you're going to get it or not. It's a very small percentage of the Canadian population. So it's a pretty impressive skill set you need to be an astronaut. Like when you start answering questions about, do you know Russian and do you know how to do underwater welding? And like, there's a skill set that you wouldn't even know based on, kind of an average person. But so I can see it's very daunting when you finish, right? But for the most part, I finished it. I admit, the basic criteria, and there you go. From there, you have to write a great essay, 10,000 words on why I want to be an astronaut. And of course, I talked a lot about, inspiring the next generation of STEM women. And then you do some IQ tests and some physical tests, and then they kind of package it up. And from there, I think they drop it down to the top 100. So, I didn't make it on the top 100. But at the same time, what does that matter, right? I'm telling you a great story. I learned a lot about the process. If I wasn't on mat leave and sleep deprived, I might have studied a little harder for some of the stuff that had been 20 years since I took, some of the math stuff. But at the same time, it's really about just trying to have fun with the world that's out there and not taking it so seriously that you take yourself out of situations. Fear is a big motivator, at least for me. I don't like to fail. I don't like to not know things. It's really hard to admit and to ask questions. And that's really the mindset you need to grow and learn. And the faster you can get past yourself and the faster you can get to the failing part, what does robots and stuff teach you is that it's never going to work the first time. You're going to iterate, you're going to ideate, you're going to work with your team, you're going to use that experience to get stronger and better. If we weren't so afraid of failing on number 1, we could get to fail 5. And that's when the magic starts to happen, right? Is when you get past the learnings of those failures. And I'm still having a hard time learning that. I grew up in an era, and I grew up just myself and what I expected of life, really hating to fail. I was good in school. I did well. I kind of progressed at a normal pace, and I never really had that fail expectation. I never really, kind of felt that there wasn't something kind of coddling me. So, that's definitely can be a disadvantage because you don't ever know who your true self is. And it's way easier to learn at high school age, even though it feels like the world is ending and it's not going to be, you're going to not get into whatever school and you're never going to be smart enough to do it. But it's easier to figure that out then than it is when you're my age. It takes a lot longer to learn new things when you're where I am.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you just miss all the shots that you don't take. So why not?
Yep, exactly.
And it's super cool that you even applied. Like I saw them and I was like, wow.
and that's what it is. But all it is putting a piece of paper in, right? There's something to be said for just trying. If it's of interest to you, like if something you're like, I don't know much about that, I want to learn more. Go learn it and do it and find experts and prepare yourself. And one of the things in Chris Hadfield's book that I remember is he was doing a guest speech and there was a famous rock band that was opening before his speech. So he prepared for hours with the one song that was their popular hit, just in case they asked him on stage to perform with them. And I thought, that level of preparedness is really what separates people. Getting prepared, studying hard, doing the homework, researching before you jump into something. People don't take risks blindly. You go in with, trying to figure out that as much as you can before you get in this situation. And I think that learning and that growth mindset is really how people become successful. And I love that vision of him practicing. Nobody ever asked him and it never happened, but think of all the times, he was ready for when something did happen. And that piece of the puzzle is really how you build strength of yourself to take on risks and challenges. People are afraid, but they kind of design themselves out of the fear by being prepared and by researching.
Yeah, okay, so before we continue with Stephanie, we'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode. So this episode is sponsored by Our Wave Hub. So Our Wave is a tech skills accelerator that aims to equip and prepare individuals, entrepreneurs, and change makers with the mindset, skill set, and grit required to make a difference in our world. Last year, they wrapped up Enigma, a super cool summer program that trained high school students in emerging tech and soft skills. So we're super grateful to Our Wave Hub for their support of our initiative since 2019.
And now it's time to announce the winner of this week's contest. And it's related to a current event, or the question was related to a current event that just happened a few days ago relating to perseverance. But the question was, if you had the opportunity to go to Mars, what's one thing you would do there? And the winner of the contest, first of all, thank you to everyone who participated and gave your answers. We really loved looking through them. And the winner is,
drumroll please,
@ANTRA_P. So since this is our last episode, we won't be having any more contests coming soon, but make sure to follow @SparkHacks on Instagram for any future contests, including some exciting announcements that are coming up very shortly. But that sort of wraps up our break segment. And Stephanie, I know we talked a little bit more about you and your career choices, being a woman in STEM, but now we want to get into like the informal stuff, whether you put your milk first or your cereal first, but that's something we can dive into later. But we have a really exciting game that we want to play with you. This is a new game that I haven't heard of before. Komal, do you want to introduce sort of the instructions?
Yeah, I think this definitely has been around for a while now. But I'm just going to get into the instructions. So Mehak and I have actually pre-picked a specific STEM related object, which Stephanie does not know about. So the way this works is that you have a maximum of like 20 questions that you can ask us, and we can reply with a simple yes, no, or sometimes. So if you guess it, you win bragging rights, I guess. And if you don't, then
All right.
Then we tell you what the object is.
Got it. All right. So here we go. Is it made of metal?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and sometimes. Already we're off to a rocky start.
Yes.
Bigger than a bread box.
No.
So a smaller object. Is it used in a laboratory?
No.
You have good questions.
I've only got 3. I got 20 more to go, and so I'm already running out of answers. It's not metal. I gotta write this down so I can review my notes at the end. Is it something you'd use in high school?
Yes.
Is it related to a measurement? You
No.
measure something with it.
No.
High school, no, not measurement. Is it electrical? Do you plug it in? Do you get power from it?
No.
Can it be found in nature?
No. It would be pretty funny if it was.
Remember, we gave you a hint. STEM related.
STEM, yes. Okay, so it's not a natural item. Not electrical, not a measurement. What did you say? High school was yes?
Yeah.
It's a maybe. It depends
Like it.
on your high school
Yeah.
program, whether you would use
Sure.
it. or not.
You can use it at
A
home.
high school student
too.
would have seen it. Okay.
I think I just gave.
Does it have motion? Does it move?
No.
You
Not-
move it.
Not on its own.
You move. Hmm.
Remember, I think we were supposed to respond with a yes, no, or something.
That's all right. Yeah, I might need some help here. So it's good. You're helping me to get to the final answer. I've lost track of how many I've got. So
I think you have. We covered 8 questions so far.
good. You keep track. I'll just keep thinking of things. Does it relate to a high school class? Like you would find it in a chemistry or a gym or a...
It relates to a high school class, but not like chemistry.
Darn, I was hoping it was like my, you're going down my path here. I love chemistry.
But you can find it in a specific class.
Do you need special training to use the item?
No.
Oh, I don't want to give up, but for the sake of your podcast, maybe I should. Keep
Are you ready for it?
Yeah. Go ahead. Hit me with it.
It was okay. Mehak, ready? 3, 2, 1. Screwdriver.
A screwdriver. Ah, that was a good one. That's actually a really good one. Very awesome. I love it. Good
You're
job.
pretty close. I guess I definitely wouldn't be able to guess it in time. But that was
funny where your brain goes in some of these things, right? When you start kind of going down your questions, can you make those connections fast enough to get back? And when you get off on a rock, all I can keep thinking is like compass. It was stuck in my head so long. It's hard to clear your brain after you've gone down that rabbit hole.
But I think that was like a great attempt. And
oh, well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
That's fun.
I didn't have any special training to do it, so
I guess we can move on to our next segment, which is rapid fire questions. We're going to ask you a series of 10 questions, and you can just give us an answer of like whatever comes to the top of your head first. Hopefully we don't get into a debate here because I know one of the questions are really debatable. We don't know which side you're going to be on.
Oh, okay.
No explanation necessary. Just spit out an answer at us.
Like a group divide, whether you're one side or the other. I get it. All right.
But to start off, what's your favorite hobby or pastime?
Reading.
Nice.
Okay, number 2, favorite course you've taken in university?
Organic chemistry.
Oh my God, you're a warrior.
Where do you like to travel?
Anywhere. I've never been.
Coolest GM vehicle?
Corvette. I make the engine for it.
I know Cole and I are both thinking of the TikTok that's related to
yeah, oh my God. Corvette.
Your viewers can relate. But now this is a tough question. What goes first into the bowl, the cereal or milk?
Oh, always cereal.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's the milk. Do you guys not warm up your cereal or like warm up your milk before you put in the cereal?
No, only cold milk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyways, moving on. If not engineering, then what?
Chemistry.
Wow. Favorite genre of music?
90s alternative.
We can't.
Okay, so now we know your favorite subject in high school. So what was your least favorite?
Economics.
Okay. Yeah. Moving on.
Oh, your most used emoji?
Regular happy face.
I think mine would be, you know, the one that's like simply smiling with the one tear down its face. Like it's in pain.
I like the laughing one with 2 tears because I am.
Okay, so last question for the segment. You're about to lift off into space. So what's the last food you would eat on Earth?
Oh, definitely chocolate.
Oh my God, same.
Oh my God, chocolate.
Gotta go for the good stuff.
For sure. Okay, so moving on, as we wrap up this podcast episode, we're just gonna finish off with some ending questions. So do you have any final advice for students wanting to go into a similar engineering field as you?
Yeah, I think my advice is always to be one, do research, find a whole bunch of stuff that you like, take advantage of the extracurricular programs, join teams, go to camps, figure out what you know. And it doesn't have to be about money, going to a lot of schools have maker spaces now that have access to play along and tinker. And whatever thing you find exciting or interesting, follow that thread, like learn more. Figure out what that piece of information does for a career or similar careers, or who in the world uses that technology, that piece of information to do cool things. The access to information and to see who's out there is pretty powerful now, more so than when I was around. You couldn't figure out who role models could be, so seek them out. And the other thing I'd say is always connect to those people, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or email or whatever. If you hear somebody talk, email them afterwards. The amount of people when I go talk, especially the students, I say, like, here's my email address. Like, if you have any questions, feel free. I very, very rarely have anybody contact me. And I think there's that sense that, student mentor, you have to have a little bit of trust. But at the same time, anybody in STEM is really offering for a good reason. They really want to help. And they love to hear because they want to know that things are getting better. They want to connect to students. And it's very hard to do that. So if somebody says reach out, feel free to reach out. Even if it's a simple question like, what do you do for a job? The more connections you make, the more interesting people you meet, the more powerful it becomes. And as someone who is very minor in terms of very few women in engineering, I love to hear that next generation of female engineers are coming up the rank, because I want to hire you as my co-op student. I want you to come work with me so that I get a chance to work with more women. And the more you guys bring your passion, the more excited I get about what I do as well. So it's a good relationship. It can go both ways. And so there's a space that exists that I want to see more women, to be able to hang out with some very cool women who love STEM just as much as I do.
That's awesome. I know you're definitely an inspiration for us, and we were super excited to have you on the show. So thank you for filling us in, just like what your life looks like at GM, and whether that be Women in STEM, and with being like the CEO of STEM by Steph. That's really, really interesting. But before we wrap up, do you have any questions for us or anything else that you'd like to say?
Well, I'd just like to say thanks for having me. It's always wonderful to see how young and how motivated you guys are. And, any of the women that I meet that are in your age range, when people say, what does the future look like? It feels fantastic, because I'm meeting strong, independent, talented women like yourselves who are putting content out there, who are helping to make connections with people And that shows a real brave new world that's coming up the pipes. We talk about pipeline drain. My job is, somebody once used it, I try to shovel the pipeline in as much as I can, but you guys are coming in, and I hope that by the time you're kind of finding your path in STEM, that there's somebody in the area that you can connect to make that transition from university to job, to support the power and the wonder of excitement that you'll have discovering the world. So I hope the journey is way easier for you than it ever has been. And then I hope, I think about my daughter, when you guys are 10 years from now, in your 20s, you're going to start sitting on panels. You're going to be talking to high school kids. My kid will be 14. So, as a parent, she'll never listen to me or anything I say. So all I can do is hope that you guys are awesome and that you'll inspire her to want to pursue STEM careers, because as we know, parents never really know anything. So you guys be awesome, do great stuff in the world. And then one day she'll be the high school kid asking you questions about how you like your cereal.
Aw,
You're definitely on the right side of the cereal question, but thank you so much, Stephanie, for being on Spark After Hours and our podcast. And I know just Komal and I have learned a lot from you just being here, and we hope that our viewers have gained some insight into your life and insight into being an ally in STEM and what that looks like. And we really love to bring you back for maybe possible season 2 or any other events that we have. But do you want to plug your social media, LinkedIn, any emails?
Sure. I mean, if you reach out, that's pretty much just Stephanie Thompson at LinkedIn. I have a Facebook group for any women who like to connect to the events that I run. I try to post content about things that are going on in the world, but women in STEM experiences through Facebook. And so reach out. If you're listening to this and something I've said, resonates with you, feel free to share, because I love to hear that feedback as well. If you've got ideas of things you want to learn, or a barrier you want to break, or a topic that you'd love to research, that's always great. I love figuring out what women want to learn, and then we can kind of do it together. So problem solving is way more fun when you do it as a group.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely check out Stephanie's socials, add her, email her. And if you haven't been following Spark, you can check us out on our website at starttospark.ca, Instagram at Spark Hacks, Twitter at Spark_Hackathon, Facebook at Spark Hackathon, and LinkedIn as Spark.
So thank you everyone for tuning in to Spark After Hours. And this is our last episode for the season. So thank you to everyone who's been following us for the past 8 episodes of Spark After Hours Season 1. It's been an incredible journey, and we have a lot of stuff planned coming out very soon. So make sure you stay updated. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us on social media. And for the last time, let's start the spark.